vividly introduced to the to all of the course in the schools. We can just start with maybe like a seminar, like every twice a year. Start slowly, then gradually introduce the concept of sex education in the curriculum, so that the children, they are not left in the dark about what's happening, and then they are prone to many other illnesses, diseases, which would be actually very harmful for our society and for the students whom we consider our future.
Thank you so much, Tushar, and that's a brilliant point for you to bring into focus, that it is very important to touch the taboo subjects and to impart the right education rather than shunning them under the carpet, believing कि ऐसा तो नहीं होता है या इनको अपने आप पता लग जाएगा. Communication and dialogue is always the number one criteria how we are supposed to break through shackles. And before we proceed with the next question, for our attendees, there is a mark, there is a symbol that the international community and in the community in India carries to normalize periods. So I would request the panel to kindly show that symbol. So we are all wearing red circles on our palm, and this symbolizes that we are an ally to normalizing periods. So if the attendees could maybe gather a sketch pen, a red lipstick, or a red pen from somewhere, and by the end of the webinar, when we take a commemorative picture, we can all show of us being an ally to normalizing periods. Thank you. So coming to the next question. Now, the entire menstrual cycle is a science, as you all, the panel also discuss, and I'm sure the attendees also know, it's a very, very natural process. But how aware are you at the age of 18 when either you're in school or you're graduating from school about the entire menstrual cycle? We'll start with you, Abhay.
I know that the ovaries release an egg, and when it is not fertilized, it exits as blood.
Yes.
And females have pain in their lower abdomen. Yeah, I just know this much.
Thank you. Riddhi?
Riddhi, you're on mute. So there are 2 ovaries in a female body, each holding, some amount of tiny eggs, and every month alternate ovaries, release these eggs. So when these eggs are not really fertilized by a sperm cell, and also there is a thick lining which is formed around. So when it is not fertilized, so this thick lining and the egg which breaks out, and that is what when it's known as a menstrual cycle. Like your cycle starts at that particular time.
Thank you so much, Riddhi. Kritika?
So yeah, this is the basic science of the menstrual cycle. Also, when I was just browsing for more and more information about the webinar, so I came across that not only women menstruate, but also the transgenders and many of the LGBT community members, they also menstruate, because the transgenders can't just change the basic biology, of course. So, they too menstruate. And for the people, if anyone doesn't know, LGBT community as in the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community.
Thank you so much. And thank you for bringing out this point, Kritika, because many people believe that menstruation only is gender specific to women. And that is why now in the feminist parlance, we don't use the word as women who menstruate. We only use the word as menstruators, because there are obviously number of aspects of gender which menstruate, which do not are found under the ambit of being women. Thank you so much for bringing this out, Kritika. We come to Tushar.
Yeah, from what I've learned, it's that in every cycle, an ovary releases an egg which gets embedded in the uterine wall to keep it safe. But in that duration, when the egg is not fertilized, the body dispatches it through the vagina. And that is what basically period is all about. It's when your egg does not get fertilized, the body releases the egg.
Thank you for so beautifully and so scientifically explaining the entire process of periods. And this is where it starts. It's a normal. Sorry, I'll just mute certain attendees so that we are in the here. Thank you. Yeah. So once we understand the science behind the periods, I think half the battle is won. we on our own understand that there cannot be any stereotypes, any myths, or any taboos attached to periods because it is as scientific as the sun rising in the east and setting in the west. So now going to the next question, which is the most talked about question. What do you think, or you have seen or heard or faced the stereotypes attached to periods? We'll start with Kritika.
So the stereotypes that I've come across are that, early starting or the late starting of periods, is a very chaos creating situation. Yeah, basically there's this certain age, by which you should start with your menstrual cycle, but it is not, important that you start at that period only. You could be a year late or a year early. So that's totally normal. And the same goes for the menopause also, when you stop menstruating, because everybody varies. So there's nothing to be afraid of it or anything.
Thank you so much, Kritika, for getting new angles into the period cycle. Menopause is also a subject which is very dear to the menstruation science as such. And I think in one of the webinars, we would definitely discuss about about the menopause cycle. But thank you so much for bringing this new angle. We'll move to Abhay.
So I've heard that women are considered to be impure during this period. They are not allowed to touch food. That they can contaminate food, and they're not allowed to be with their family for that period of time in the rural India.
Yeah, wonderful. So basically, women during periods are coronavirus. They are supposed to maintain their own isolation. Fantastic. So we move to Riddhi. Riddhi, any stereotypes that you have heard or faced?
Yeah, so this one is a really big stereotype which we usually hear, which is women are not allowed to go to their temples like when they are menstruating. So so this is a thing which is very prevalent. Like they feel that if they're on their menstrual cycle, so they're contaminating the temples, and also they're not allowed to touch the holy books. So yes, this is one stereotype I've really come across.
Fabulous. Tushar, heard of any?
Yeah, many, but the one that got most of my attention was even when you go through social media and even when you just talk to your peers and all that, you hear that when a girl is on a period, she's a monster. You cannot go near her, or else she'll kill you, she'll murder you. So basically, the whole acting out scenario during a girl's period. But what people don't get it's actually a condition. It's called PMS, premenstrual syndrome. The cause of it is not proven, but what's hoped is that during the periods, many hormones are released, and the whole hormonal balance of a girl is disturbed. So this results in anxiety, depression, and all of that. So people are not aware of them, and they make fun of the girl for acting in such a way when in reality they should not.
Wow. Thank you for speaking this out, Tushar, because I think many of the women, when they try to act, when they actually want to opine over certain things or want to share their opinions, and these are like badass or very strong opinions, they're labeled as, are you PMSing, or is it that time of the month? So the entire nature of a woman coming out and speaking for herself is relegated to, oh, you must be going through a menstrual cycle and that is why you are acting out. Thank you for bringing that out, Tushar.
And but if I could add something to that.
Absolutely, please do.
Yeah, since we're talking about PMS, we can't even expect everyone to be aware of it, since we are not taught about it. We are not made aware of it. So since we can say that, yeah, this person doesn't know about it, but it should be actually made an issue that why aren't we teaching our students about it? Why aren't people aware of PMS? Since it's a very big issue and it happens to many women around the world.
Absolutely. So I think entire thing boils down to more education, more communication, and more dialogue on a process that is as natural as the menstrual cycle. Now, coming to the other question, because while growing up, now I'm extremely obviously comfortable with the idea of periods, and whenever I am on my period cycle and I'm specifically on my first day when I'm bloated and I'm under pain, I outrightly tell the people around me that because it's my first day, I will not be able to function in the normal arrangement of things. But what are the names that you have heard from women, from your counterparts? How do they address periods? Do they call periods, or there are other acronyms attached to periods? We'll start with you, Kritika. Kritika, you're on mute.
You're mute.
Am I audible now? Yeah. So girls' problem, and that too, in whispers. Girls' problem. And after that, Crimson Tide, another
Wow.
amusing name.
Wow, Crimson Tide. Of course, we are overflowing with blood. We have so much of blood in us that we will actually
Yeah.
float into a tide. That's extremely interesting. Tushar, heard of any?
Yeah, I even did some research on this, which was very amusing to be honest. The names that people have given, but two were the most common ones and the most used ones. They were the time of the month and visit from Aunt Flo.
Visit from
These
Aunt
two were
Flo.
the these two were the most funniest ones that I've heard.
This is actually funny. Even I haven't heard of Visit from Aunt Flo.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Riddhi?
So I've come across is like, it's a lady's business sort of a thing. So a lady's business, and the other word which is commonly used is trumps.
Yeah, yeah. These are pretty common names. Yes. Abhay?
Yeah, I've come across words like down, the same word jump, then some a word famous in Delhi that is mata ka something called.
Mata wale din. Yes, even I'm aware
Yeah,
of it.
mata wale.
Yeah, even I'm aware of it. I don't know why, but yeah, that's a very, very used word, a used phrase in Delhi where they call periods as Mata wale din. So yeah, thank you so much. Now, specifically to our girl panel, this particular question: have you ever been embarrassed or conscious of the periods, or have you ever witnessed a scene, an episode, an example where either the other party was conscious of periods or you became conscious about periods? So, Kritika?
Yeah, so I've never been embarrassed or conscious about it, neither in talking nor in my actions. But yeah, I've experienced something. So, like in school, we have waistcoats on top as a part of our uniform. So, the pockets of it are very small. So, once I just took out a pad from my bag, I kept it in my pocket, and I was walking to the washroom. So, not the boys, but surprisingly, the girls pointed out because, the pad did not fit well. So, Chitika, what are you doing? Your pad is showing from the pocket. And I was like, it's not a used one, first of all. And secondly, you're a girl. How can you point me out? It's okay if it's showing, yeah, I'm going to change only. Now I'm maintaining my hygiene. So what's your problem? And not being a boy, a girl pointed me out. So they are also so ashamed of taking it to the washroom in
Yeah,
school. So how are they going to bring, the normalizing thing around?
absolutely, absolutely. And I think before educating the other genders who do not menstruate, it is extremely
Yeah.
important for the menstruators to have solidarity and to understand that this is healthy, and rather they should be celebrating periods rather than being ashamed of it. Riddhi?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I personally have not experienced, but I've come across like a situation in my school, which was a girl of my standard actually stained her clothes. So people around, was some sort of not really taking a step forward to really inform her about it, but instead they were mocking. So it was a really disheartening situation for me. And at that particular time I took this lesson back, that I would really not care what the mob is saying actually, but I would go forward and really take this action myself and tell her that she stained her clothes or something. So this was one situation I had come across.
So that is really good. When you do not really rest the responsibility to the other person, you take the charge of it, you become the trailblazer of any kind of taboo or any kind of stereotype that we observe in the society. Rather than expecting the others to come and do the dirty business, we have to be there to make sure that we are contributing to the socio-cultural fabric of the world at large. Now, just how Riddhi mentioned that she had witnessed one of her batchmen staining her clothes due to periods. This particular question is to the boys. Have you ever witnessed one of the girls staining her clothes, and what did you do? Or in the parlance, that if you haven't really witnessed a girl staining her clothes, what will you do if it happens in the future? We'll start with you, Tushar.
Yeah, I personally have never witnessed such a scenario, But if I were to see a girl with a stain on her pants, I would politely approach her. I'd be like, "Hi, excuse me, you have something on your pants." And then she can figure it out, because it would be considered highly inappropriate and rude for me to go up to a stranger and say, like, "Hey, there's blood on your pants. You should just, run away and do something." So yeah, I would do that. I'd be very polite and I would respect her boundaries as well.
Thank you so much, Tushar. Abhay?
Yeah, I have never come across such a situation like this. But yeah, if I come, then I would ask my friend or a girlfriend who to tell that girl that she has some stain on her pants or anything else.
Yeah.
So
And
that I'd like to add to this, T. May
sure,
I?
sure.
So, boys, this is a really good initiative that you think in that way that you're going to make the girl aware. But over here, I'd like to, state this out to the girls that, you also start to take it in a positive manner. If a boy is approaching to you, telling you that, you have a stain on your outfit, just go check it out. That doesn't mean he's checking you out or simply staring at your butt. Every guy is not trying to check you out. Some genuinely care that you do not get disrespected in public, and that's why they approach to you. And most of them don't, because you take it in a wrong way. So even we girls need to change our thinking now.
that is so beautifully put, Kritika, because it is so important for us to first be confident about a cycle. And
Yeah.
That's how Kritika has very beautifully put forth that it is not that every boy walking up to us, telling us about us staining clothes doesn't mean that he wants to get into our pants. It is also about that maybe that person is concerned. And that kind of confidence actually comes from our own being. Once we start ourselves being confident about the period cycle, we will actually not see it to be such a taboo if somebody is pointing it out. So thank you for putting that forth, Kritika. Now, as you boys mentioned that you would be comfortable around period cycle, have you ever purchased a sanitary napkin? Or if not, will you be willing to purchase a sanitary napkin for your girlfriends, for your mother, for your sisters, or otherwise? Tushar?
Yeah, I'd have no problem in purchasing it. But this reminds me of one story, of something that happened to me once. We were in school. It was a library period, and I was with a very good friend of mine. And middle of the period, she gets a period. Yeah. The- so in middle of the period, she gets a period, and then she asked me that could get her if I could get a pad from her bag. Library, it was much closer to the washroom than the class, and she said that she would rather go just to the washroom than go to the class and then return, because that would not be possible. And her asking me to get her a pad from someone got attention of some of the other boys in my class. So they were all eyeing me that, yeah, is he gonna get it? And I was like, sure, I have no problem in getting you a pad. It's a normal thing. So yeah, I went up to the class, I got her a pad, and she went and changed.
Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Tushar.
shows that even many people are, still.
Sorry, please go ahead.
Yeah. I'm done.
Yeah, so Tushar, that I think you have set an example for a number of people that how solidarity of genders actually happens, and why solidarity of genders is important to change the socio-cultural fabric of a particular country, and specifically to touch taboo subjects like menstrual cycle. Abhay, will you be comfortable in buying sanitary napkins for your friends and for your sister?
Yeah, I'll be comfortable because it's normal. It happens to each and every girl on earth. And if you are afraid of it or you are ashamed of it, that I don't care about it, because you need to buy it. It's a necessity and it's a normal medical commodity.
Fabulously put. And that brings me to one thing that happened during the lockdown. So during the lockdown, there were only essential commodities that were available from various at the various shops. So essential commodities actually come under an act called Essential Commodities Act 1957. So before the lockdown, sanitary napkins were not considered as an essential commodity. And only during the lockdown, there was a lot of talk and lot of campaigns by the feminist leadership in the country. And they said, no, sanitary napkins is an essential commodity. 50% of the demography bleeds, and they bleed healthily. So that is when sanitary napkins also became an essential commodity. So now that the boys would be very confident to buy sanitary napkins, what about the girls? Have you ever bought a sanitary napkin? And if not, would you be eager? Would you be comfortable in buying it in future? Kritika?
No, I haven't bought a sanitary napkin ever because the stock is always there at home. It keeps getting restocked. But yeah, I'd be totally comfortable in buying it, and doesn't matter if at a medical shop there's a lot of there are a lot of people, that doesn't matter. I can ask normally, I require pads, please give it.
Thank you so much, Kritika. Riddhi?
Yeah, so it's always been with my mother that I have been doing it, not alone personally, but yeah, I would be very confident in doing it, because going with her, as I've always noticed that, what kind of sanitary napkins to use, which one to buy, which would suit my requirements specifically. So yeah, I would be very much confident about it.
Yeah, so that actually is extremely important, not just to know about menstruation, but also to know about the hygiene involved with menstruation. So as Riddhi mentioned, her mother has educated her about various sanitary napkins and, what kind of sanitary napkins would suit Riddhi's needs. Similarly, I think all the menstruators need to be educated very well about the needs and the various types of menstruation hygiene available in the country. Now that we have discussed the overall picture of menstruation, the stereotypes, the taboos attached to it, what do you think are the myths attached to, the stereotypes attached to the menstruation cycle and to the periods? We'll start with you, Kritika.
So the myths, stereotypes and all, that I've come across, first of all of them is that, periods is a personal problem. No, it's not a personal problem. All the girls and boys out there, no. Malab, everyone on earth, every girl goes through it. People in every country go through it. And some, suffer because of it too, because not everyone, has the financial condition to buy a pad and the other resources, required. So many people go through this problem too. And secondly, the myth that I've come across is that periods are shameful, but I don't understand what's there to be shameful of. It's not a problem or a lady business or a crimson tide, right? It's just a natural process that we go through. So what's to be shameful about it?
Thank you so much, Kritika. Riddhi?
Yeah, so as Kritika mentioned, the crimson tide thing. So we all believe that, we lose a lot of amount of blood during our periods. But while I was researching, it is actually not like that. So it's like we only, lose about 6 to 8 teaspoons of blood. Unless we have a problem of heavy bleeding, then is the time that we are losing about 80 ml of blood. So yes, this is one myth, this is actually one myth which we believe in. And secondly is that we should not exercise or do workouts during our periods. So for that, we have one fitness expert on our board. He would be answering this question to all of you at the end. So these are the two myths which we believe in actually.
Thank you so much, Riddhi. Tushar?
Yeah, one of the myths that I've heard, and I have to be honest, I grew up hearing it all the time, is when that a girl uses a tampon during her period, she loses her virginity, which is actually not true. The thing is, you see, it says that that the hymen of the girl breaks when she uses the tampon. But the thing is, the hymen, it actually has a small hole in between, so that the tampon can be used. But using that tampon, it can cause some tears, or it can even break the hymen. But that does not necessarily mean that the girl has lost her virginity, because virginity and a good character of woman are not an equal representation of womanhood and the respect in our community. So even some girls are born without a hymen. So that is completely false to relate virginity to the use of tampon and to the use of hymen during their period cycle.
That's actually very well put, Tushar, because it is so important to address, though it is not a part of a seminar today, but to address the issue of how virginity is the character trait of being a good woman. So you have to maintain your virginity before you get married, and only then you're a good woman. Otherwise, your character is down to the dungeon. But similar stance is not available to the other gender. So maybe in one of our next webinars, we can definitely address the issue of virginity. But as rightly put, hymen and virginity are not actually litmus tests to each other. During actually, most of our girls are also indulge in a lot of sports, horse riding. During this process also, they can break their hymen. So if it happens through tampons, if it happens through menstrual cup, and otherwise actually through menstrual cup and through tampon, you don't really break the hymen. But even if it does, then I don't think so it has anything to do with your character. Coming to Abhay.
Yeah.
Abhay, you're
on mute.
Yeah, so there's a myth in rural India that girls have a devil inside them during menstruation, but no, they don't have any devil. This myth is related to the Vedas, that it comes to every girl, the menstruation comes to every girl in the form of Indra's guilt, who killed Vrithras, a Brahmin. So this is a myth. Nothing like this happens actually. And yeah, after the menstruation, every girl has to take bath in milk and in Ganga Jal.
Wow. We would anyway take bath in milk and Ganga Jal. Yeah? Why do you want to be on your periods? We should all become Cleopatras and we should take bath in milk and honey or whatever it is. But yeah, that's
a road trip to Haridwar.
Yeah,
Nice.
and move to Haridwar for regular travels. Yeah, that also
Yes.
is an added benefit. But thank you so much, Abhay, for bringing out that angle. And now, just like you mentioned that, how Tushar mentioned about the tampon, there is one of our panels also mentioned about the menstrual cup. So there are obviously different hygiene mechanisms available for the menstrual cycle. Now, how over the years we have normalized menstruation is by equating it with the things around the world. So in the 90s, how the feminist leadership across the globe normalized periods is by making sure that sanitary napkins were available to one and all. So that was the first point. Now then we went into the 2000s, and that is when there was a lot of talk about normalizing periods. You must have seen that there were sanitary napkins ads, there were celebrities talking about periods. Now that we are in 2020, and specifically the world that we are living in around, it is very important to look at periods in tandem with the ecological waste that it creates. So just around the stats, it takes about 500 to 700 years for one sanitary napkin to decompose. Most of the panel and the attendees must be aware of that sanitary napkins is a non-biodegradable item. And that is why there was an advent of other sanitary mechanisms like a tampon or a menstrual cup. So what does the panel think? What should be the talk around menstrual hygiene management? Also because on May 28th, we are celebrating International Day of Menstrual Hygiene. So what does the panel think that the hygiene or the waste around the menstruation can be equated? We'll start with you, Riddhi.
Yeah, so I would talk about personal hygiene over here when a girl is menstruating. So it's like we should really take care of her cleanliness first. And secondly, we should always take care of changing her pads on a frequent basis. Like one pad can just stay for 6 hours. So we should actually try doing that before. So, we prevent from suffering through the rashes, and also it does not cause any other harm to us.
That's wonderfully put, Riddhi. Kritika?
So I'd like to talk about how you dispose the pads, because in schools also there are no particular disposing bins or bags there to separately dispose of our pads, and in fact some girls just leave it like that without even wrapping them. So we should be very, very aware that how are we just wrapping them around and throwing them properly. And in fact you can wrap it in a newspaper and then throw it, so that in all the garbage it can be separated. And by wrapping it in newspaper, it doesn't mean that you're ashamed of the pad, of the used pad. No, it's just for the hygiene.
Thank you, Kritika. Abhay?
Yeah, so when you decompose it, you should wrap it in a newspaper and throw it in a different bin. not in the household, not in the household bin, cause the house waste can be decomposed or something like that, but the pad cannot be. So you should throw it in the bin, and you should have a separate bin for it.
Thank you so much, Abhay. Tushar?
So yeah, I did some extensive research on this, the disposal of sanitary napkins. And what I came across was the only way to properly decompose a sanitary napkin was to burn it in 800 degrees Celsius. That is basically in an incinerator, which is obviously not available in our homes. So even if we throw it in a separate, in a wrapped paper, or if we give it to a government agency to dispose of all of our waste, it needs to be only burned so that it can be properly taken care of. And what I've heard is that many girls, they flush their pads down the drain in the toilet seats and all that. So even on that I read, and what came across was that the drains of our toilets and all that, they are only made for urine and fecal matter. So they are not basically prepared to deal with a non-biodegradable material. So the pad, it would just be stuck there. So it won't even decompose, and it would only clog your drain. So the main thing to do is also to not drain them, the pad.
Right. Riddhi? Sorry, Kritika?
I already said
sorry.
my part, the wrapping one. Yeah.
So, has the panel finished talking about wonderful? So,
Yeah.
just because you were mentioning about decomposition of the sanitary napkins, that also reminds me that easy availability of sanitary napkins is also a must, right? And specifically the school-going girls and boys, it is important that they always have a sanitary napkin availability in their schools. So in your respective school, is there a sanitary napkin dispenser, or are there sanitary napkins available in your infirmary? Riddhi, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so we have a medical clinic in our school which provides us the sanitary napkins whenever we need it. So also we have a system in it which is like a kind of a barter system that says, when you want a sanitary napkin, you would take one, and also the next day you have to give one. So, the stock of the sanitary napkins is always there, and it is like whenever the other girl needs it, so she's able to avail it. So this barter system is one thing which we have, no dispensers in our school.
Fabulous, fabulous. Tushar?
Yeah, in my school, even we have that system in which the pads are provided to girls if they need it from the medical room. But I would also like to take this moment to appreciate the government of Kerala. They have done tremendous work in ensuring that the girl students are protected, they're treated right, and they're given to all of their needs. They have basically installed pad dispensers in the washrooms, and they've made specialized washrooms for girls to use them when they're on their period. So this is a great achievement for the Indian government and for the people of Kerala, that their daughters are safe.
Thank you so much, Tushar. Kritika?
So the same, me and Riddhi being from the same school, so yeah, there's a clinic, and always pads are available there. But yeah, the disposing of the pads, as I mentioned earlier, is not in the correct way, which should be corrected. But yeah, this barter system thing is really nice, and neither of us, me and Riddhi, we are never ashamed of going to the clinic and asking for a pad, and nor are our friends around. So that is a real wave of change that has started to come. Girls are not shy in asking for pads in the clinic too.
You are so
Also, I would like to
sorry. Please
add over here, as Kritika's mentioned, disposing part, so again, this education starts from the school. Like, school should make the students aware. So all the people attending the webinar today, all the students, should really take this initiative and go and talk in the school to, really make all the students aware from the small age only, that how to dispose it in the correct way, so that they imply it later in their lives also.
That's very well put, Riddhi. And that actually reminds me that back in time when I was in school and I would I would be down with my periods, and if I had to take a leave from school, I would actually write in my leave application that I wasn't well, and not write that it was my first day of periods, I had chums, or I wasn't really feeling up to it to go to school. But today I see a lot of young girls, actually blatantly writing it down in their diaries or in their leave application that they couldn't come to school because it was their first day of periods and they were not well. So I think that also starts a discussion on normalizing periods. Yeah, so we'll come to Abhay.
Like I mentioned,
That was something that I really liked.
Yeah, it's
yeah,
actually very
definitely.
nice.
Sorry.
So Pallavi, you left.
I
You
know, I'm
were
so
not
sorry.
here. So
My internet is
yes.
behaving in a very weird way. So yeah, I think hiccups.
So Devanshi Agarwal just mentioned that in her office there's this thing proposed that girls are allowed to take a day leave when they start with their period cycle.
Oh, wonderful.
So which is one, yeah.
So Devanshi,
Or work
sorry,
from home
that's
should
fine.
be allowed.
So Devanshi, at the end of the session, we would actually want you to discuss about this a little further.
Yeah,
Sure.
Great. So yeah, so now that we are done with the management, in your own capacity, has the panel ever witnessed or seen or done something to normalize periods? We'll start with you, Riddhi. Riddhi,
you're on mute.
I have been really noticing that whenever we go to the medical stores to buy the sanitary napkins and everything, so there's this system which they always use is that they wrap it up with a black paper or some paper always, and then they give it. So I made it a point over there that whenever I go and buy it, so I told him that why are you packing it and giving it. This is something not to be really ashamed of. So we can actually buy it and open in front of others also and take it back home. So this I did this to normalize it.
Fabulous. Kritika?
Yeah, so so this little experience happened with me 2-3 days back. We had a family dinner at my place, and I asked my brother that why hasn't as in my cousin sister turned up, what's the problem? So he was like कि, she has that problem. मैंने कहा what problem? तो बोलता कि the girl's problem यार, understand ना, and that too in whispers. मैंने कहा अरे तो say it openly ना कि she's on her periods, she was in pain, so she couldn't come. And so that in family also I am honestly very open. I do not whisper around with the girl's problem thing. I just say it कि I'm on my periods and all. And even in when I'm in my friend circle, so I prefer to use this word and not whisper कि if I want a pad, I'm going to take my friend in the corner and then tell her in a ear, do I have a pad and could you please lend it to me and all that. So yeah.
Tushar?
Yeah, see, in my school, I have a friend group which has many guys and girls. So we have had open discussions about almost everything. So we discuss about topics. We even ask our teachers. Some are very forthcoming. Some are very honest with their answers. Some even help us, while some look at us very weirdly. Even some of my classmates, like, what the hell are you guys talking about? This is a topic which you're not supposed to talk about. So yeah, we have had open discussions about it, and we have discussed to our teachers, and we have healthy arguments about it.
And Abhay?
So I am personally not done anything, but yeah, some of my friends have also discussed it with me. Like normally, like they can't talk because of it. They need to sleep. They are not well, and yeah, I'm open to it, and I have open space for it, and I support it.
Wonderful. So now that we have discussed,
Also, I would like to
Yes.
add over here, while we're normalizing it, it actually starts from the family first. As in, while we have brothers or something, So I think we should be really open about, talking to them. And similarly, the brothers would become supportive about it. So that is how the chain would go in normalizing and talking about it in the society as well.
Yeah.
That's brilliantly put, Riddhi. So now that we have talked about it, that in each of your personal capacity, you have made a change in normalizing periods, and I think this question we can address it to our audience in the last session, where maybe they can share their views how they have in their own capacity tried to normalize periods. But why do you think we really need to normalize periods? I mean, definitely there are statistics in place which make sure that periods need to be normalized, but in your own view, why do you think periods need to be normalized? Tushar, we'll start with you, please.
Yeah, to put it in a nutshell, it's the 21st century, यार. अब नहीं तो कब करोगे? Regarding this, I read this quote somewhere, and it really stuck with me. It said, "If she has to whisper about her pain, then for us, it's a matter of shame." This quote it got me really emotional to think that my mother, she grew up in an environment, she grew up in a time when this topic was such a taboo that like people pretended, even the women, they pretended like, yeah, this was something that did not even exist. So it was really sad. And if we can't talk about it now, then all the women empowerment issues and all the movements like the Me Too movement and all of those, what would be the point of all of those movements if we can't even discuss openly about it?
Thank you so much. And Tushar, I will actually want you to repeat that line, because I think even I want to bookmark that line. So I think most of our audience would really reckon with the line. Could you please repeat that line aloud for us?
Yeah. Yeah, it goes, if she has to whisper about her pain, then for us, it's a matter of shame.
Thank you so much, Tushar, for putting it out. Riddhi?
Yeah, so we need to normalize periods to really, not feel shamed of it, or people making a topic of, shaming that periods. Why? So it is not really like that. So I think if we are talking about normalizing it, so it is a need, so that we very confidently stand out and talk about it. And how do we really do that? So it is like for example, today we are attending this webinar. So we all will take a few things back from it or something. So now it starts that you go back and talk about it to somebody else also, that I attended this and it was like that. So that would make the other person also open about it. So it's like also supporting the people who are actually speaking about it, and who are open about it, and not really criticizing them that why are they doing it and everything. So this is the need, that all of us are free to talk about it. So yes.
Thank you so much, Riddhi. Abhay, we move to you.
Yeah, so we need to normalize it for the people in rural India. Yeah, they need to know about it, and the women there need to have an independence from it. Like they are considered to be impure. Why? Because they have periods, and yeah, they are thrown out from their houses. They have to sleep in different huts during this period. Why? Because of their period. So we need to do something for them, so that they are considered normal, so that they are allowed to stay in the house during this period.
Fabulous. Kritika?
I totally agree, with all the points that my co-panelists mentioned. But, so much emphasis on the rural area. Is the urban area really rising about this topic? We all present here belong to upper middle class families, all of us, and others to our brothers, and all the elders present. No, we aren't. So before implying the changes towards the rural areas, let's just make the changes in ourselves as well as in our known environment, and after that we can just move on to doing that. And why is it कि एक padman आई and उसके बाद everyone started talking about periods? Why didn't we start it before that? And that too, Padman was by Akshay Kumar was an actor, so everyone could associate with him. That's why everyone talked about it and all. But why not make the change beforehand itself? So that was my point.
Thank you so much, Kritika. And
Yeah.
now the last question. We have discussed the myths, the stereotypes, the various other personal capabilities, the personal experiences the panel has had around the periods. But what do you think is the future? How can we, or what can we as a population, what the country can do, what our schools can do to normalize periods? We start with you, Tushar.
Yeah, so my answer to it would be, since it has to start with our schools. The only way for us to shape our future, to shape the young minds, is to start with schools, and that is to introduce the topic of sex education in the curriculum. There was a time when the curriculum deciding body, it introduced the topic of sex education in the school curriculum. So many states of India, they protested rapidly. They were like, Ki, I would rather burn my child's book than to see him or her learn this topic. Initially, 13 states, they banned sex education. Some of these states were Gujarat, Goa, MP. They banned sex education all for forever. They said that it's the Western culture that is forcing on their Indian values, and that it is something that should not be taught to Indian students. So I have to say it has to start with the schools. Then only we can, save our future from this gender discrimination and all of that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Tushar, for putting it out. Abhay, we move to you, please.
Yeah, so we need to show documentaries in each and every part of India in their local languages so that the women and the male can understand this and take it as a normal phenomenon to each and every that happens to each and every girl. And yeah, we can show the documentaries in each and every schools for their sex education. Yeah, for me.
Thank you so much, Abhay. Riddhi, we'll move to you.
Yeah, so I have already mentioned earlier that how to do it, but also I would like to add, by telling each and every individual that why is it necessary to menstruate, what is the importance of it, and actually how beautiful it is. So menstrual cycle is something which acts as a cleanser also in your body. So it removes out and flushes out all the toxins of your body, which is actually necessary. So if it's happening every month with us, so we should be actually grateful that all the bad nutrients and everything going inside us are actually flushing out. And also it having it also prevents it from suffering from cancer also. So this is also, like, while I was researching, this is one thing that having menstrual cycle prevents us from suffering from cancer. So again, it's like it's a natural process and a sign of healthy body. So it should be thus celebrated and normalized in a beautiful way by talking out freely and not being just ashamed of it.
Thank you, Riddhi. And I think that should be the biggest takeaway from today's webinar, that periods need to be celebrated and to be very proud that we bleed healthily. So women should be actually very proud to bleed every month. Kritika, we'll move to you.
So according to me, in public places, there should be sanitary napkin dispensaries, they are very, very important so that every girl, has access to sanitary napkins, even if, they're out of money, or sometimes, they're not just having it simply. That, and also, by simply implying it, like I mentioned earlier, implying it on our own, on our personal environment, because according to the stats, 93% of girls are period shamed, and not only in public but in their own families as well. So there's nothing that they should feel ashamed of. So yeah.
So that's a big data. 93% of the menstruators across India have felt that at least once in their lifetime they were shamed for something as natural.
So yeah, I'd like to add to that if I can.
Absolutely, Tushar. Please go ahead.
Yeah, as they are talking about awareness and how it should be talked about, I would also like to point out that since it's okay to talk about it, it doesn't necessarily mean that you are obligated to talk about it. If the girl doesn't feel safe, she shouldn't. I read this. I read about this a little while ago. It said there was this survey done by a student in Rajasthan. Her mother herself died of cervical cancer because of improper technique she used during the period. And it said she asked a nearby worker at the construction site. She said that if her husband found out that she was on her period, he would beat her up and get her pregnant as soon as possible if he found out that she was on a period. So these women, they don't feel safe talking about periods with their husbands, with their families. So I would like to point out that it's okay to talk about it, but you don't have to talk about it if you don't feel comfortable in that situation.
Yeah, so that is actually very, very aptly put by Tushar. You are never obligated to talk about your gender, about your inclination towards a particular sexuality, about your body anatomy, about how you feel towards the other gender, or what you not feel towards the other gender. It is absolutely upon us to take that roll call. We are never obligated to answer such personal questions, and rather these are very private and personal questions. Neither should we be addressing it, and nor should we be accepting anybody probing us and asking us on these personal questions. And only when we have a safe space available, be it in the form of friends, family, teachers, only then go forward and discuss your life. Otherwise, there are other resources available. There are agencies, there are committees, there are women wings, which are available, which can render all these various issues. So thank you so much, panel. You have been exemplary with your inputs, with your understanding of menstruation cycle. And now the house is open for questions. I think we already have certain questions on the chat, which I will be taking up now. Also, if any one of us from the attendees wants to in person, in the sense like on their own, want to ask a question to the entire panel or to one panelist, we will be more than eager to hear from you, to look at you, because I think most of you are not on video. We will request you to kindly switch on their videos, because nobody is judging. You could be in your jammies and we will not judge. We are not one of those people who judge. So you could be dressed in any which way possible. And but I will address certain questions. One question which is critical, and we are very, very fortunate that we have Kaustubh Shukla amongst us. He is a fitness expert. And a question that probes most of the mensurators is that during menstruation, can I exercise? Can I work out? Can I maintain my fitness regime? So I would please request Kaustubh if you could address this question, please.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So yes, it's absolutely safe. आप कितना भी मतलब even just avoid some external exercises, just heavy liftings. Even you can modify your workouts. You can replace it with yoga, pilates, light aerobics, walking, jogging. So it's not like कि आप 5 से 6 दिन के लिए आप घर पे एक्सरसाइज नहीं कर रहे हो because कि you have like even घर वाले ही बोलते हैं कि भाई एक्सरसाइज मत करो अभी, it's not time, it's not safe to work out. But there are many benefits. Even exercise on your periods has been proven to alleviate many symptoms like pain, bloating, depression, mood swings, irritability, fatigue, nausea, like many things. So it is absolutely safe to work out. Even yoga and pilates are very safe. In जब भी आप workout कर रहे हो, just do yoga stretches, like even you can do power yoga also in while doing in your during a menstrual cycle. So it's absolutely safe. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kaustubh. We
I
have
have another question.
sorry,
So you know about working out, I had researched a lot about whether it is okay to work out during periods or not, because I was really intrigued by this, and I was always, stopped by my mother. So I really wanted to know what the reason is. So I did come across a few positions or yoga poses that are not to be done because they increase the blood flow and the pain. So could you also highlight if you do know about these?
Kaustubh?
Yes, like some things to avoid that I've told you, some external exercise and some positions that is making like hyper stretches. Like don't go beyond your limits. I mean during these cycles, like if you are doing chakrasana and if you are going like if you trying कि आप और ज़्यादा push कर सको limits, so that makes much more stress on your abdomen and also maybe आपका pain and cramps बढ़ सकते हैं. So just don't go beyond the limits. I mean थोड़ा सा उसमें रहो कि हाँ भाई मेरे को excessively exert नहीं करना उस टाइम पे कि like it's okay. 4-5 दिन you can do it in a light way. uh, Another thing is some inversion type poses with yoga are not recommended. Yeah, that is the research obviously. So you can avoid some inversion type poses. And lastly thing is कि if you are feeling fatigue during a workout, then please stop exercising. Okay, it's not about कि आप push करो limits. If you are, कि आपका trainer बोल रहा है कि आपसे नहीं नहीं you can do one more rep, so just shut up, अपना workout वहाँ पे बंद करो and just go. Okay, so just listen to your body also, please.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Kaustav.
Devanshi, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you, Devanshi. There was a question asked by Sarth, and I'm so happy. And specifically, coming from small towns, it is a major, major handicap that people from small towns carry, that we are not progressive, or we are the provincial town of Delhi. That is a label given to people from Agra. But I'm so happy Sarth has asked the question, and I would address it to the panel. He's asking that, what do you think are the safe ways or better ways of sanitary mechanisms, the either a sanitary napkin or a tampon or a menstrual cup? So maybe I will chime in a little later, but what does the panel think, that what are the various ways and what are the most suitable ways of sanitary hygiene management? We can start with either of you, actually. Anybody of the panel who wants to chime in.
Should I start?
Please do, Kritika.
Yeah. So, not you, of course, the girls, they use any of the tampons or the pads, anything that all is okay, nothing varies. Anything that suits the girl's body is the main point, and whatever is, of her comfort level. And secondly, as Riddhi mentioned, that the personal hygiene, first of all, regarding it, that, changing your pads quite often to avoid, you can actually catch infections too if you wear a pad for a longer time, as well as then, disposing them in the correct way, wrapping them correctly, not mixing them with the vegetable, with the that vegetable waste, for them, as well as like we should be very much aware that the animals are safe.
Yes.
So yeah, the dispose.
So that's actually very well put, Kritika. Also, I think it is very important right now to talk about the menstrual cup. So I use a menstrual cup during my menstruation, and menstrual cup A is it is usable, as in it is reusable. It doesn't cause any kind of a waste. B, you can even swim if you wear a menstrual cup. You can do your exercises. Like, I have worked out while wearing my menstrual cup. Definitely there is a technique, there is a way, there is education involved on how you have to use your menstrual cup. But again, as Tushar mentioned, that you're never obligated to make certain choices just because it's new and trendy. You need to be educated about it, embrace it, and start using it. But from my personal experience, if you look at the ecological waste, I believe that menstrual cup is the best choice that any mensurator can use at this particular time. There was also a question which, because I logged out because of rocky internet, there was a question about sex education and how you're supposed to, if one of the panelists read that question, I just remember it briefly, that it was about how to make sure that sex education.
So
I'll read it out.
Yeah, please do.
I'll read it out. It said, many pointed out that sex education must be incorporated within our curriculum, but there's a difference between education and knowledge. People do know about it and yet make a mockery out of it. How do you think can we sensitize people towards this issue?
Right. If the panel wants to take this up.
My whole point was sex education. It needs to be incorporated in the school curriculum. Yes, people know about it. People even talk about it. But what people basically know is that this is the male reproductive system, this is a female reproductive system. They know what to do with it when they are, in love. They just know that. They don't know the proper things to keep you safe from contracting many diseases. And yeah, people make a mockery out of it, but it's a thing that needs to be talked about. even if they make a joke out of it, you have to talk about it because it is an important issue. It is a very important issue, and it's actually very sad that that the people of India, they don't give it much attention. Like even I even blame our education system that it doesn't give much importance to these topics. So yeah, even if it's a joke, it needs to be talked about. That's the only way to get over this problem.
Any
Because
of,
after some time, it will get normal. Yeah,
any of the other panelists wants to chime in?
Yeah, so when I
Yes,
say,
yes, I'd like to add something to Riddhi.
yeah, you carry on, I'll speak then.
Hanji. So I just want to add this point that sometimes girls get very aggressive that this is a debatable topic and you should talk about it, but sometimes it isn't the situation and some people are not comfortable talking about it, and that so you should have the wisdom that when and where to start the topic, and then only the education can go in the right way. Yes, Riddhi, please continue.
Yes, absolutely right. As she talked about the using wisdom over here, that how to go about it. But when we are talking about incorporating sex education, but I believe when it, for example, if it starts in grade 5 or 6, when a girl is about to go through this process, so that would be the time they would actually not mock about it. Instead, they would be curious and know about it in a better way, and would be inquisitive, and by the time they reach to a stage when they start mocking about it, they would be very natural with it, and would be very free in talking about it. So it depends at what age group are they introducing it, because it's usually the older ones which are usually mocking at these things and not the younger ones. So I think this is one way of sensitizing it in a good way.
Yeah, I'd also like to add, since when we talk about sex education, the first thing that comes into some people's mind, and the only thing that comes into people's mind, is that what sex education tells you about is just the process of intercourse. But that is not the reality. Sex education is not that. Yes, the process of intercourse is a part of it, but sex education is a broader concept, is a much, much broader concept. It tells you about the diseases, it tells you about the pregnancies, it tells you about the menstruation cycle, which we are talking about right now. So sex education is not just about that. That is intercourse is a part of it, but it is a much broader concept.
Yes, that is very well put, Tushar. And actually, sex education now is reformed to be called as comprehensive sexuality education. Because as Tushar just mentioned, it is not about sexual intercourse. It is also about masturbation. It is about the LGBTQI community. It is about pleasure. It is about choice. It is about consent. That even if you, as an adult, you want to enter into a sexual activity with the other person, with your partner, you need consent. It cannot be thrown down your gut. There are talks about STDs. There are talks about various other aspects related to the sexuality and how you're supposed to address sexuality, which is as normal as us born as individuals. Each one of us has a character trait. Each one of us knows how to address sexuality in our own being differently. So rather than making a taboo subject, there needs to be education so that whatever step each one of us takes in our future, it is conscious and it is well reasoned, and we do not commit mistakes and heinous crimes. So very well put. There is also a question by Jasmine. She's asking that the entire webinar that we had today, definitely English speaking, upper middle class, top 1% bracket of the country. But what about the people which are prudish people, which still think that, this is a very taboo subject, you're not supposed to talk about it? What does the panel think? How are we supposed to really start educating these people? And here I remember that Abhay mentioned that in the rural India, there has to be more documentaries, specifically in the vernacular languages. So maybe the panel would want to expand on this.
Yes, so I would like to take on, firstly, I don't think still if everybody has joined here is open-minded, there would be a lot of again stereotypical thinking they must be going on with or something. But I think such webinars would help them to really get open about it. And then when we move to the lower sectors, so again, as Abhay mentioned about showing the documentaries, is, one way. And also, if you remember, if you watched Padman, so how he came forward as one person, and due to which, all the women became confident and they went out of their houses to sell those pads. So similarly, through getting in touch with the activists, or on our own, we could, from maybe the helpers working in our own houses, we could start from them, telling them about the sanitary napkins, how do you use them, talking to them and telling them the process as well. So this way they would take it back to the kids, and this is how the cycle would actually move on. So from a personal level, we should start.
And also, to this, I'd like to add that, like you said, from a personal level, it should start. So, Abhi, the webinar we are having, we have it in, English, because we all are aware of the language. But when we go to the rural area, these difficult words and basically the language, they won't be able to associate with us. They won't be able to understand. Then the documentaries are of no point. So even, associating to them in their language, talking in Hindi, just normally explaining to them, but in a respectful manner, not using any blunt words. That should also, be an emphasis, like not taking it all in English, but rather keeping some part for Hindi too.
That is very well put, and specifically for a country like India, where we do not have a national language. We have vernacular languages across the state, but there is no one national language. And there is a very small percentage of people who are eloquent, who are comfortable in English. And because the medium, the entire reason for such activity is dissemination of information, of knowledge, it should definitely be done in the vernacular. Great. Any question that one of our attendees would want to ask the panel, or one of the panels personally? I mean, the house is open. You can personally also ask them. I will unmute everybody so that the questions can come in. Otherwise, the chat is always available.
So I just wanted to highlight 4 points that I've noted down here. Number 1 is of disposable dustbins, and which are specially made for sanitary napkins. So this can be done in your schools. There I have noticed in my office that there are special dustbins in which you fold the sanitary napkin in a certain way that it is more easily biodegradable. So this is something that you can propose in your schools, to have installed in the girls' washroom. And then second is, this is something that I got from my mother, that she, like in my early age, I was always very fearful, or, very shy about telling about my periods to my father. But whenever I was in pain and my father used to ask, what happened to her? Is she not well? My mother would very blatantly tell my father that she's going through a period, even though I was initially embarrassed. So that has really helped me to install some confidence. Number 3 is about menstrual pause. So I think, all the mothers who are, all our mothers who by the age of 45 or 50, they go through menstrual pause, which is a very difficult time for them. So I think education about this is also necessary, because my own mother, she is not very accepting of this fact that she's going through it, and there are certain mood changes or body changes that they go through during this time. Yeah. And number 3 is one thing, that we were not allowed to go to temples when, to enter the house temple when we are going through our periods. So this is something that I've always taken up with my mother and all of my family, that we should be allowed to do so in if we are going through our period in a very hygienic manner. So this is something that I wanted to highlight. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Devanshi. And I think your takeaways add so much value to the webinar, because specifically when you have feminist parents, when you have progressive parents, your ease towards understanding the entire gender spectrum and what the various gender goes through becomes a little easy. Having said that, we also need to understand that we are not supposed to call out our parents or our family if they are a little prudish. To educate them is our responsibility. It is easy to talk about, easy to blame, but it is very important to understand that any kind of revolution, be it the independence of the country or a feminist leadership, was never served in a silver platter. People fought for it. And obviously you don't have to go out and shoot people or pick up fight at home and become like nuisance at home. By fighting means to have a dialogue, to have a compassionate dialogue, to encourage people to have a dialogue. So I think most of our audience, which at one point were 56, we are 20 now, that most of us are attending this webinar because we want to be the source of change somewhere. and we will take back the learnings and start to have that kind of dialogue back home. So I think we have one more question. Yeah, so Anushka
We
is.
have a suggestion, not a question.
Oh wow! So we have a suggestion. There is an award-winning documentary called "Period: End of a Sentence," which has very well put up how ashamed people are hearing the word "period" that they start smiling and mocking about it. I suggest you all to kindly watch it if you haven't. Thank you so much, Anushka. And if Anushka, you're okay to talk about it because I'm assuming you have seen the movie, we will be more than eager to hear what were your learnings from the movie.
It's kind of a short film about period, which is like the as the title suggests, it is as period end of sentence. So in the documentary, they go like door to door in the rural India mostly, and ask people if they what all they know about the periods. So all of them, like they when they go into the houses and ask people about it, all of them are so ashamed of it, or I don't know, so embarrassed of it that as soon as as soon as they hear the word period, they start smiling and they start looking here and there, and they just don't want to answer it. They don't want to talk about it. So that's how the title is put up, and it is really nice to see how the rural India has no idea, matlab, most of it has no idea what period actually is or what the girls actually go through. So
Thank you so much, Anushka. And I think we all should catch a glimpse of the movie and watch it through and take our learnings back from there. If we do not have any other question, I would request the panel to kindly, say their last words, what they want us to take back, and yeah. So we'll start with you, Tushar. Last closing statement for the webinar.
Yeah, so this whole
Show
webinar
your
was
red
about
dot and then
yeah.
So yeah, red dot.
Yeah.
Mine is gone.
Yeah.
I will redo it.
So this
But yeah.
yeah, so this whole webinar was about women and periods. So what I'd like to say is that for me, women, they are born leaders and leaders bleed. So yeah, deal with it, get it over with, and just don't mansplain the whole process of menstruation to them. They know about it. They know about it more than a guy knows about it. So they are leaders. Leaders bleed, and just let them be who they are.
Thank you so much, Tushar. Kritika, we'll move to you.
yes. So it's not a girl's problem. It's just a natural process, and girls just fight with it very bravely. Like warriors. I mean, I cannot even explain to the boys that what pain do they go through. You cannot imagine it also. So rather than mocking them and making fun of their stains and all that, start to respect them. Respect those 5 days of the menstrual cycle that they go through. Thank you.
Thank you. Riddhi, we'll move to you.
Yeah, so first of all, I would like to thank all of you to be here. It was a great pleasure to talking to all of you. And secondly, I would say that, when we are talking about menstruation, menopause, mental breakdowns, mood swings and everything, so there's this men word which comes in every word. Menstruation, menopause and everything. So it starts with men. So this is a process which men and women together should face it very confidently, bravely, and with always a smile on a face. So as we said that it's a process of being celebrated. So as Kritika has said earlier, so girls are the warriors who bleed, like the warriors who actually bleed. So girls are the similar warriors who bleed. Yes.
Thank you, Riddhi. Abhay, we'll end it with you. I think Abhay's internet is a little rocky. I think if anybody, if our rest of the panel have the one line that Abhay had used in our creative, maybe we can read that line from the creative for Abhay. Maybe Abhay's internet is a little rocky right now.
Yeah,
Can I
I
read
have
it?
I can read it if you want.
Please do.
I'll read it. Riddhi, you're reading or should I?
Yes, I'll read. It's okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So Abhay believes that the day the importance of menstrual cycle is understood, every girl will get her complete freedom and acknowledgement.
Yes, so on that beautiful note, thank you for joining us, and we are really pleased. Abhay has joined actually, so I'll wait for Abhay. Abhay has just joined the room, but yeah, I would want to. We would definitely want to hear it directly from Abhay. Yes, Abhay, the last closing statement from you.
Yeah. So thanks to everybody for being here. So the day each and every girl, the day each and every understands menstrual cycle, all males and females, girls will get their acknowledgement and freedom.
Thank you so much, Abhay. And I thank the entire panel for being so cooperative, for doing their extra research, for learning about this subject with so much passion, and to be confident and to be progressive and to be out here discussing it without having any kind of handicaps. I am also extremely grateful for our attendees for taking out time and addressing this issue and becoming a proactive part of the discussion. And we hope to see you all in our future webinars also. The next Sunday webinar is going to be on body positivity, and specifically body positivity for women, because women are a greater number of a demography which are shamed for various body representations. So we hope to see you there also. And we are very eager to hear from you. So you could reach out to any one of us on Instagram. You can follow the Azad Initiatives page and maybe reach us out there. We would love to hear from you all. And thank you so much. Please have a wonderful day.
And
Sorry, yes, Kritika.
also, we are grateful to you for giving us this opportunity,
Yeah.
and you took this initiative to create awareness about the menstrual cycle. So big round of applause for you as well.
Thank you, and I'm going to see
Thank you,
all
Riddhi.
next Sunday with a different panel, but as vibrant and as wonderful as our today's panel. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.